mean, I technically own the book, so I could burn it. I'm not a savage, though. I won't do that. I'll just throw it in the snow. I'm kidding. I won't do that either, even if I really want to. December was a very interesting reading month for me. I found some really good books that I loved and have become my Roman empires. Some other books that I wish I could get an exorcism for so I could forget about them. And then a few that just kind of fell in the middle. I know we are so many days already into January, but my head has just been doing numbers lately, especially with like the whole TikTok ban. Is it not going away? What's happening to book talk? And so forth and so forth. So I am finally able to sit down and film some content for you guys. So let me tell you about the books that I read in December and which one I would burn if I could burn it. I mean, I technically own the book, so I could burn it. I'm not a savage, though. I won't do that. I'll just throw it in the snow. I'm kidding. I won't do that either, even if I really want to. This is in no particular order. I did end up reading For the Wolf, and this is a dark Little Red Riding Hood retelling. Now, it is a young adult book, and we follow Red. So Red is the second daughter that has been born in centuries, and she has to be given as a sacrifice to the wolf in the woods in hopes that he would let go of the gods for the townspeople that she lives at. It was a pretty good romantasy, and I will be continuing the series. I was really not that shocked that my favorite character was the morally gray wolf, because I love dark books and dark romantasies, especially of all. So I will definitely be continuing that series. I can't wait to see if he's gonna have a happily ever after, because he deserves it. Two Wrongs Make a Right is one that has been marinating on my shelves for a very long time, and I'm glad that I can finally say that I read it. So I did end up giving this a rating of 4 stars out of 5. And in this book, we follow two individuals who are polar opposites on different spectrums, and they decide to date to trick their friends into getting off their backs because their friends are trying to get them back into the dating scene. Now, don't judge me for this one. I read How the Hitman Stole Christmas, and I did end up giving this a 4 star. This is a book that you're gonna want to read for the vibes and the vibes only. Also read this if you like mafia romance or dark romance, because it's gonna test your morals. In this book, we have a hitman that needs a date to bring home to his family's Christmas party, and he decides that a random woman that he finds stranded on the side of the road would be the perfect girlfriend. These two were a hot mess, but I had a really fun time reading this story. Midnight of Ashes is book 2 in the series, so what I can tell you about it is that we do get a lot of answers from things that happened in book 1, and we also finally get the backstory of Hayden's parents and her abilities. I will definitely be continuing the series. This one was a little bit slower than book 1, but I did enjoy it, and I can't wait to see how everything wraps up in book 3. Pole Position, this is the book that I wanted to throw it away, but I couldn't. Well, I would say this is one of the books that I wanted to throw away. This book follows Kian and Harper. So Harper is an F1 racer, and his friend slash partner ends up being injured. So he is replaced temporarily by Harper. Now Harper is an upcoming rookie who is really excited to finally be competing at the highest level. And when I tell you that this man got on my nerves, Kian deserves better. Harper does not deserve Kian, in my opinion. He was a pain in my ass. I wanted to throw the book away every single time he opened his mouth because he was just so childish. And if you let me sit here and rant to you about this book, I would, but we're just gonna move on. The Songbird and the Heart of Stone follows Mitchie, and she is a vampire. Now Mitchie has to endure a dangerous mission into the underworld with the Shadowborn Prince, and she actually has to kill the god that he is trying to resurrect. Now this is book 3 in the Serpent and the Wings of Night series. Each book, however, is being released as a duet, so book 1 and book 2 are a duet. This is book 3, so book 4 will follow the same characters, and then book 5 and book 6, did I do that math correctly? Yes, I did. Okay, I was confused for a second there. Then book 5 and book 6 will follow different characters. So if you didn't read book 1 and book 2, you can still read book 3 and book 4. I would suggest to read book 1 and book 2 because they're my absolute favorites, and I did end up giving this book a 3 star. It was not my favorite. I felt like I just really had a difficult time picturing the world, especially because we were in the underworld. It was really hard for me to see where we were at when we changed locations, and that was really hard for me because with this author, she has a very vivid way of like painting a scene for you, and I was expecting that same vividness going into the underworld, but I kid you not, it felt like I walked into a dark room and I was in a dark room the entire time. But I will give the next book in this duet a chance because of how strongly I feel about book 1 and book 2. And we're just gonna hope for the best. Addicted to You is a book that took me by surprise. I really didn't expect this book to be about two addicts who use each other to hide their addictions from their families until they both hit rock bottom and then they have to seek help. This book was a trip. It took me on a really rough adventure, and at times I was really staring off into the wall, wondering if I had read what I had read, and yes, I did. Overall, I did enjoy it. It's not my favorite, and I know this is a very long series. I do want to see how the two are gonna cope with their addiction, so I am emotionally invested with the story, but I did end up giving it a 3-star. The Christmas Cafe. I did a separate reading vlog where I included this book, so that talks a little bit more in depth about it if you are curious to know more about the story and my reactions. This book follows Sylvie, and she is a baker. She loves her place of work, but when she learns that her boss is going to sell, she doesn't want that to happen, so she comes up with a plan to save the bakery. This book has a love triangle in it, and I was not expecting the love triangle, so I was thrown off course by that, and I finished it because I was doing it during a reading vlog. If I had not been reading this book during a reading vlog, I would have probably DNF'd it, but it wasn't awful. I just was annoyed by the love triangle because I like love triangles where I don't know who you're going to end up with. Like, if I know who you're going to end up with, what's the point of the love triangle? For the plot? Like, the whole plot shouldn't be the love triangle, and in that book that was the whole plot. Then we have The Plight Before Christmas. So this is a feel-good holiday romance that you must read. This book follows an FMC that is forced to spend the holidays with her ex-boyfriend because her brother brings him home for Christmas, not knowing that the two had dated. I was eating this book up. The dialogue had me invested emotionally, mentally, physically. If I could have physically been in the book, I would have jumped into it. So if you're wondering, do you need to read this one? Please do. Now, The Loser's Duet is one that people kept telling me to read for a very long time, and I finally did it. The hype surrounding this book is real. It is very emotional, and for a Why Choose, I didn't think I was going to love every single character, but I did. Even Jess, who at the beginning I could have thrown her off a cliff and been perfectly fine if she never appeared in the book ever again, but by the end of the story, I was in love with her. So this book follows a former queen bee by the name of Jess, and she ends up giving herself to the losers as payment for damages that she and her friends caused to their garage. This is a duet, so I do own part 2, and I will be reading that hopefully this month. Now, this is a book that I have beef with, so that's gonna be The Hurricane Wars. I was told that this book was gonna have dragons in it, and it did have dragons, but they were more like seawater dragons and not actual dragons that burn places down, and those are kind of my favorites. So I was salty. If you were to give me French fries, I could season them up for you. That's how salty I was. I had salt to spare. I did do a reading vlog for this book as well, so I will make sure to link that somewhere on the screen. If you're interested in watching it, then you can go and watch it. I gave this book a 3.75. So in this book, we follow an orphan and a warrior who are forced to work together to stop a bigger threat against the world. This book dragged on after the 60% mark, and it did not pick back up until we had 10% of the book left. If you honestly just took that chunk out, the book would have been a 5-star. Then I read Court of Nightmares, and this should be called Court of Cum because of how many times they said blood and cum repetitively over and 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 over again. I will not be finishing this series. I have zero motivation to do so, but it wasn't awful, so I did give it a 3-star rating. So this book follows a female lead who was born to fulfill a prophecy. She is a vampire, but being a vampire is more of a curse than a blessing. The spice in this book was ridiculous. 60% of this book is pure spice. And when we say smut books, this right here is a smut book. The plot takes a back seat. The plot is present within the first 5 chapters, and then it takes a seat, and then the rest is just them going at it in multiple ways. They get very creative. At one point, they do it in a magical pool that has a table in the middle, and I did read Forever We Fall, so this is book 2 in the series, and it follows Hataru and Arlo. So we did meet these characters in book 1, and they are super close. So in book 2, we kind of just get more of the backstory of how they met and why they are so close. I did like that we kind of got the backstory of how they met and why they would die for one another. But I am hoping in book 3 that we finally get my girl back, because she made book 1 for me. Like, I was absolutely obsessed with her. So fingers crossed that they all show up in book 3. If they don't, I really don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. Then I read the famous Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and R.F. Kuang is one of the auto-buy authors for me, where if I see her in a store, I'm going to buy the book because she never disappoints, and the Poppy War was no different. So in this book, we actually follow Rin, who makes it her life mission to pass the Empire exam so she can earn a spot within the walls of a war college. Now, she does accomplish that, and she does get to go to the war college, but getting in is just the tip of the iceberg. The things that take place in this book are not for the faint of heart. It is a high fantasy. Rhythms Blues is my new obsession when it comes to urban romance. You could say nothing bad about this book that I would genuinely listen to and say, yeah, you're right, because you're wrong. This book was perfection. So we follow Rhythm, who is a successful occupational therapist, and she is dating a rapper. Now, she begins to question their relationship when news outlet begin to make rumors saying that her boyfriend is dating another rapper, and that rapper is actually one that her boyfriend is collaborating with. I did like how Rhythm handled herself. She always stood on business. That's my girl. If she needs me to go fight for her, I would. 5 stars. I devoured this book within a day. Like, I genuinely could not put this book down. It was so dramatic. It was so messy. It was all over the place. Everything that I love in a good book. Now, I read Brutal Game, and where I do love bully romances, this is one that I could have lived without reading. If I could get an exorcism to forget about this book, I would pay money for that. Like, I would sell my kidney for that. But sadly, the book is still in my brain, and it will be in my brain until the day that I die. This book follows a female lead who is trying to get revenge against the hockey team for the things that they did to her brother, but the team captain decides that instead he is going to make her life hell and make her pay. I detested the male lead for this book so much. You could not pay me money to say anything nice about him. I did also read Gnome in Your Home, and this is a quick little holiday novella. So this book follows Olivia, who is a single mom, and she ends up asking for a man for Christmas. Now, it was a joke when she asked for a man to be brought into her life because she was talking to an elf, a magical elf on the shelf, and lo and behold, she does end up getting a man that comes into her life and wants to take care of her, but he is actually the elf king. And then she has to decide if she is able to date the elf king, who is a magical creature. This book was an experience. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Then last but not least, we have Christmas at the Cupcake Cafe. Now, Izzy is the proud owner of a bakery, and things are going good in her life until her boyfriend gets a promotion, and said promotion makes him live outside of the country. So then he is relocated to New York City, and they have to navigate the waters of how to deal with a long distance relationship. And this is a book that I wanted to burn. I will never be reading another book by this character ever again. I was so confused. I didn't know who I was following half the time because there were so many characters, and all the different characters came into play, but they had nothing good to provide for the story. That just made me very angry. I was very frustrated, and no, I will never read another book by this author. It was like somebody gave me my plate of food and forgot to season it. I like my chicken well seasoned, even my beans. Like, I'm gonna need you to add some spice to the beans. You can give me plain white rice, as you should. You don't need to season white rice. If you season white rice, then you're a psycho. But the beans need to be seasoned right, and so does the chicken. And you're probably wondering, you eat beans with white rice and chicken? Yes, actually, it is a famous Dominican dish, and it is one of the most delicious dishes you'll ever eat in your life. If you want to add an avocado or banana to the side of that, oh my god, so good. So good. Those are all the books that I read in the month of December. It was very interesting. Like I said, I was all over the place. Some books, I don't even know why I read them because I now regret it, but it's okay. I will stop ranting now. I just want to say thank you for supporting my channel. Please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know what is the book that you read in December that you wanted to throw out of a window. And remember that this is a safe space, so no judgment. Bye for now.